Yep.
And we're recording. So, all right, guys. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Dylan Kelly, aka DK the Mobility Guy, and owner of DK Mobility. And my friend here joining me, my co-host, Tyler. Introduce yourself.
Absolutely. What's going on, guys? Tyler here, owner of Total Performance Fitness. I've been at this now for just about a year full once I retired from the game and when I was playing with Dylan. And I love it. And I love that, through our experiences, we're able to kind of give back now and kind of teach where we messed up and, where we went wrong in our own hockey careers. That being all said, as far as we made it, just what stuff that we wish we would have had at a younger age at, an easier, easier to get a hold of than it is now for sure. So that's kind of what our idea is here. And we're just trying, like DK said, to make you guys better players, better athletes, and just give back whatever advice we can.
Yeah, right on. So a little more about myself. DK Mobility started back in October. Since quarantine, things have really kind of started taking off for the business. I started focusing more towards hockey players, more towards hockey goalies. And so that's just been a really humbling experience, and it's been a lot of fun so far. So connecting with, all of you guys and other goalies and goalie coaches and stuff, having the opportunity to go on a few podcasts. Got to go on Jack's podcast last week. We had a great time. So it's been a blast. I'm going into my third year pro this upcoming season. Played at Adrian College before that. Pro, I've been in the ECHL, the SPHL, and the Federal Hockey League. What else? I have a bunch of certifications, but you guys don't really care about that stuff. Just mobility is my specialty. That's something that I'm really passionate about, is mobility and just movement, and just taking care of the body. Because I know it looks like some of you guys are pretty young. Like, I'm 25, I'm still young too, but 30's looking closer and closer, and eventually we all stop playing. And usually we're forced to stop playing, right? Usually our body makes us stop playing before our mind actually does. So that was just my thing with the whole mobility thing is, at the end of the day, when hockey's over, we want it to be our choice, and we don't want to live, crippled the rest of our life because of, this game, right? So that being said, I'm super excited to get the Zoom show going with you guys. Just to give you an idea of the structure, what we're going to do here. Every show is going to have a topic. So today, we're going to tell you a little bit more about the warm-up, the importance of warm-up. You've seen some posts and stuff on social media, I'm sure, leading up to this Zoom call about the warm-up. So you guys have a gist of what's going on today with that. That being said, we want to make it something fun as well. Like, it's Sunday night, so Palms and I are going to be sharing some stories with you guys from our past experiences. Just some good times, things that might relate to our topic, things that are just funny hockey stories, just us sharing our experiences with you. And because that's what it's all about at the end of the day, is sharing your experiences and learning from each other's experiences. So, and then we'll always leave time for questions at the end, whether it's type them in the chat, DM them to us throughout the week, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll try to pretty much always have some sort of video for you guys. So I guess before we get into it, Palms and I both have warm-up videos on our YouTube pages that you guys can go and check out and actually get video demonstration and coaching there. So you can, take the Zoom call a little bit further and actually, get some exercise and stuff like that. So
I'll post mine down in the chat right now, and then I can take over, DK, if you want, and you can throw yours in.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. So there should be a link in the chat for you guys. So I guess I'll just quickly kind of go over my playing career as well. Obviously, you guys know Dylan's a goalie. I was a defense when I played competitively for over 20 years. I guess now it's been, and I just retired after last year. I ended up playing junior A. I played 4 years of college, and then ended up getting to play professionally 2 years down in the States. I played at the ECHL level. for a cup of coffee. That's about as long as it felt like there. But I did play there, and I know Dylan has ECHL games as well. So we kind of got to around the same level playing wise. And I kind of, just to build off what Dylan said, I wanted to have a choice as to why I was retiring. I didn't want to be told I had to, whether it be because of my playing ability or because of injury or whatnot. So I was able to go out on my own terms, which I'm super happy about, and I'm a lot more happy that I get to now give back some of the knowledge that I gained over the game. So I'm just gonna quickly share with you guys an article that I was reading about earlier today on the importance of a dynamic warm-up. This article is from Core Physical Therapy. They're a physiotherapy company based out of California, and I thought that this summed it up very, very well. So I'm sure you guys, static stretching essentially means holding a position while not moving your body. It's an isometric movement without tension or without creating strength, right? It would just be like if you guys were sitting down, holding a basic one leg in, one leg out. You guys are holding it, you're just sitting there, right? It's passive. There's no active movement incorporating your whole body. So when we're getting ready for a game or a practice or a workout, we want the body to be moving. We don't want to be warming up slowly, right? We don't want to be warming up while not moving, because you're not going to not move during a game. So a dynamic warm-up, basically the difference is the goal of a dynamic warm-up is to increase blood flow, get the muscles properly stretched out, increase flexibility, and improve functional mobility in our joints. Okay. So Dylan is the guru, guys, for that. Anything mobility, getting you guys to move better, warm up, anything like that. DK is your guy. He's super, super knowledgeable in that field. He has the school background to back it. He has the certifications. He can build it however you guys want. And he'll touch on that a little bit later. But, why we want to be dynamic is you're trying to mimic movements and work outputs and intensities for your game. Right. So I'll kind of let Dylan, get into that as we talk about more of the bulk, but just keep that in your mind, write that down, right? When you're warming up, what are you warming up for? Are you warming up to go skate on the ice at 40% intensity? Or are you warming up to, if you're a goalie, if you're warming up to make 60 saves that night, what kind of movements are you going to be doing? How are you going to be moving? For skaters, myself, are you a defenseman that's going out there and playing 6 minutes a period? I hope not. But, if you're going to be relied upon, that your shift output is, okay, I'm going to glide up the ice. But when I'm coming back, it's 35, 40 seconds. It's hard. It's intense. Lots of movement in the hips, obviously. Our shoulders need to be loose if I'm reaching for a poke check. Think about the movements that you guys do while you're on the ice during the game. And you want to mimic that when you're warming up, obviously starting out at a lower intensity. And then as we go, you guys are building up to a higher intensity, something close to what you would be doing in a game. Whatever the movements you are, you guys know what kind of players you are, what positions you play, what does your typical shift look like? Where are you guys the most? How much are you skating? How hard are you skating for how long? Right? Are you changing directions lots? All that stuff plays into effect. So DK, if you want to take it away and just kind of dive into a little bit more on what a dynamic warm-up would look like and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I think probably one of the most important things that Palms just mentioned here was it needs to be specific to you. So our warm-up is exactly what it sounds like. It's something that warms our body up to go do whatever it is that we're doing. So it needs to, one, be specific to you and whatever the activity is. So, I might not warm up the same way to get on the ice as I would to go in and do like a heavy strength day. So our warm up needs to take into account, one, what we're doing that day for our workout, whether it's, for practices and games, our warm up can be the same. So for hockey, I recommend that you create a 15 to 20 minute warm up that gets you like huffing and puffing. You should be sweating, and it warms up every single joint in the body, and it's custom to you. It's tailored to you and tailored to your position on the ice and your game, right? We all play different styles of game. Goaltending, obviously it's a little bit different, but let's say you're, a D does more of certain things like backward skating, to be completely obvious, more than a forward. So their warm-up needs to take that into account. If you're a skilled guy, your warm up, might be a little different than someone who's probably planning on getting like banged around a little bit out there, throwing his own body around. These are all things we need to take into account, as well as our body needs. So me, I can only tell you what I know and what works for myself. And so me personally, I've got tight ankles. My ankle mobility it's getting a lot better, but that is something for me. I need to do something for my ankles in my warm up, because that's an area of weakness on my body, for, let's just call it that. So same for you guys. Like, you might not have a bad ankle, maybe you have, a bummed up knee. Well, we need to do, our knee cars, or we need to do something that helps prepare that knee joint for what we're about to do. Paul, stop me if I get rambling here. Where was I? Oh, I lost my train of thought.
While you're thinking, I'll just hop in quickly. 'Cause I know we have a couple defensemen here. So kind of what DK's talking about, like what he just said and what I touched on, you're skating backwards a lot more. Okay, which means, our active muscles, when we skate backwards and forwards, we're doing extension essentially instead of flexion, right? We're doing a reverse movement of what you would be, doing skating up the ice predominantly, or as a forward, or however you want to think of it. But stuff like that, guys, to mimic, for me, simply, if I'm going to do hip openers in my warm-up, which I do them going backwards, right? It's the same movement. If I'm doing, I can just show you guys quick. If I'm doing a quick opener, right, instead of jogging forward and doing my hip opener, right, I'm going to be, and I'll just move my chair here, right, I'll be going backwards doing the same thing, just reversing my movement, right? Because that's where a position that I'm going to be a lot more on the ice than skating forwards. If I'm doing my job, right, I'm gliding forwards 95% of the time, and my hard skating is usually backwards. Maybe I'm going back for a puck, so I'm skating forwards, but if I'm playing in the play, 95% of my job, I'm going backwards. So like my reverse lunges with a reach back, I'll do those walking backwards. It's just something for me that helps on the mental side too, and we'll touch on that later. But really genuinely think about what type of player you guys are. What are the movements you're doing on the ice? And if you can mimic that during your warm-up, from my own personal experience, I will say it's paid major dividends to that. Just, having my head thinking that way even before the puck drops. And it could be something as simple as what I just said, reversing the movement. If you're a goalie and you're, working on sliding, pitches, like if you're going to do a skater hop for a warm-up, are you going to be going side to side mainly that night? Are you going to be going on a diagonal forward, diagonal back? What kind of movements do you feel you need to make sure are ready to go to have your best on ice performance?
Absolutely. So I remember what I was going to say. If you're sitting over there right now thinking, okay, well, DK just said like he knows that he's got a weak ankle, and so how do I learn, where my areas of weakness are in my body? The answer to that is cars. So I talk about cars literally probably any time I talk about mobility, because it is by far the number one most important thing that you guys can be doing on a daily basis to take care of your body and use this CARS, controlled articular rotations routine, as a assessment tool. So we do our CARS every day, which is an exercise that targets one specific joint and moves it through its full range of motion. So it teaches you how to listen to your body and learn where those points of weakness are throughout your range of motion. Most of us are strong through the middle of our range of motion, and we're weaker towards our end range and in the beginning. That's just how we are. So if you don't know too much about cars, definitely check out my Instagram. I've got tons of stuff on that. I also just re-recorded my cars routine, my beginner mobility routine, which is the full head to toe cars routine. Targets every joint in the body. You're going to be doing stuff with only your toes. Like this video, this routine can take you anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes, however much time you have that day to put into it. And there's nothing else like this. It's a 30-minute video, and I really dive into the details, and coach it really hard, give you guys tons of instruction. And I truly don't think there's another cars routine video out there like this. So that should be ready for you guys. I just finalized it today. I just watched it over with my camera crew, and that's ready to rock and roll. So I'm thinking I really want everyone to do this because it's the number one thing you should be doing. So I haven't completely worked out the price yet, but it's going to be at a reasonable price. So I would definitely check that out. Sorry to plug halfway through the show already, but
No free ads.
yeah. So I would say, you guys just want clear-cut answers. Your warm-up needs to be, 15, 20 minutes long. Get you huffing and puffing. Needs to be specific to your body and what your body weaknesses are, needs are, just as what your body needs as far as structure and what it needs to be able to do on the ice or in the gym, whatever it is. All of you guys are hockey players, so one exercise you 100% should include is your hip car, which if you don't know what hip car is, check on my Instagram. There's a video on there, YouTube, and that's one of the exercises in my warm-up video. So I strongly recommend you incorporate all three of those. But I think it's important as hockey players, we need to have very good balance. So I think it's important to include balance in your warm-up. I think that's something that I think the warm-up as a whole is very underemphasized, but we don't really focus enough on balance in our warm-ups. And that is something like you'll see in the video, it takes time. Like your body really does need to warm up to be able to have balance. So if you're waiting to try and start balancing while you're on the ice, starting that first period, there's a much higher risk of things not really going your way right off the hop. And that's why you'll see some goalies who come out and have slow starts, probably because their warm-up isn't dialed in enough for them, and it takes them the first 10, 15 minutes of the game to get dialed in, and we can't have that. If you want to be an elite level goaltender or an elite level hockey player, you got to be ready to go the second that puck drops. So that being said, Palms, you got anything to add before you end the stories?
Yeah, and this will actually kind of preface the stories. It just made me think of it,
Drop some questions too. If anyone has a question,
throw it up in the chat box. We'll get it answered for you guys.
Yeah, go ahead and throw that in the chat. If it's something pertaining to the warm-up, you can throw that in now. If you just have another random hockey question, whatever, save that one for the end. But go on.
Cool. So what you just said, and it's perfect because I think, no matter what age you are, you can understand these terms because they're hockey terminology that you hear in NHL games all the time. For example, if an announcer says a goalie has a slow start, well, what, is it mental? Is it physical? Was it their preparation? Was it their warm-up? More than likely, yes. And I'll say that very confidently, and DK, maybe you can speak more to that, but I know for me, the biggest translator there I can see for a skater is if you hear an announcer, you hear someone, or your coach says, we got to find our legs. Or if you guys I don't know how many of you guys are traveling yet, but you get off the bus and your legs feel like they weigh 1,000 pounds, and you guys come out in the first period and, we got to find our legs. Well, okay, so think about it this way. So minor hockey, you guys are at home, you're playing in your city, you guys are maybe driving at the most 45 minutes to get to a game. You were up all day, maybe you were at school, maybe you're playing around with your friends. Subconsciously, without even knowing it, you guys were already warming up. Subconsciously, not even knowing that, you guys were already warming up, right? So you're already doing your body a favor. And then, you sit down, you cool down for a little bit, you're getting ready, right? You pack your hockey bag and you sit in the car for half an hour. Well, your body's going to be a lot further along in terms of being ready for activity and more so ready for a game than if you hop on a bus for 3, 4, 7, 10, 15 hours. Your warm-up needs to be relative to the circumstances that you're going through. I'll just talk from personal experience. When me and Dylan played together, our games at home, we had a routine. We would get up in the morning, we would go for a walk, then we would go to the rink. If we pregame skated, if not, we had to do some sort of dynamic activity. Some guys played soccer in the hallway. Some guys did, stairs. Some guys did laps. But getting our body moving earlier in the day, and this kind of goes a little bit more, but I guess think about your warm up far before you're doing the warm up. And I'm not talking on ice. I'm not talking off ice at the rink. Think about what are you guys doing that whole day, and think about to past experiences. If you guys are playing on a Saturday and you don't play till Saturday night, what were you guys doing that whole day? How did you feel going to the game, and how did you play? Were you sitting on Xbox or PS4 for 11 hours before you went to go play hockey, and how did you feel and how did you play? I'm more than willing to bet it probably wasn't your best game. Maybe it was. Maybe that works for you. I don't know. I'm speaking from my experience. I know I can speak on Dylan's behalf. We were very analytical in the way that we prepared, and I think that's why me and Dylan are very unique, and we mesh so well together, because we don't think the same way an average person does in that sense. I'll say we're very analytical. We were always trying to find our way to get an advantage, to make sure we were ready, no matter what it was, no matter what our circumstances. And what I'll tell you guys that'll kind of segue into my story is that no matter what circumstances, there's always a way to be ready, no matter what happens. That's the most thing. If you guys can take one thing, aside from obviously, the informative part of us, knowing why, but if you guys can take one thing, just there's always a way to be ready. No matter what your circumstances are, there's always a way to be ready. So I'll just tell briefly, in the league that Dylan and I were playing in, I would call it fairly spread out. Would you agree with that, Dylan?
Yeah.
Our shortest trip would have been 3.5 hours.
Roanoke, yeah.
Roanoke, 3.5 hours. That was our shortest trip. And now granted, some of the longer ones we would leave the day before, but regardless, you're still sitting on a bus for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. And during part of the year, you're dealing with a lot of, bad weather. If we're going up north to Evansville, which is 15 hours on good driving conditions, if you're lucky. So, if there's a snowstorm, it might happen to us. In my first year playing in Fayetteville, it was a 15-hour bus ride. We had left Wednesday night. We're playing Friday night, and we ended up not getting there until, 4 hours before game time, not having slept at all, hardly on the bus, not having moved for so long, what felt like an entire day, just not moving. And then having to get up and knowing that you got to get a big meal in, you got to get your water in, like we're playing a game in 4 hours. And, so we're getting to the rink an hour and a half. We go to the hotel, we had maybe half an hour to kind of sit down and relax and, maybe grab a quick nap, but we didn't have time. And your body is exhausted. You're dehydrated. The bus is hot. You're not eating regularly as you would be. You're not fueled. Everything is against you. And then on top of that, we're leaving our hotel to go to the rink. Our bus blows a tire. And at this point, it's 2.5 hours before game time. No one's really still moved. This is normally when we begin to the rink, starting our warm up, getting to move. Everyone's loosening up, and we're stuck on the side of the highway. And it's just like, it seems like it's like one thing after another just keeps piling on. That's where I was like, maybe not at the time, but very soon after I realized, this is a great test. How am I going to use this, and how can I be prepared? How can I be ready? Because let me ask you guys this. Do you guys think if that were to, God forbid, ever happen in the NHL, which a lot more factors prevent that sort of thing happening. They have a lot more resources to make sure no matter what happens, like they're going to get to where they need to get to on time. But we're not all in the NHL. None of us are in the NHL. We don't have that. So you have to work with where you are and what your surroundings are and make the best of it and be the best that you can be. So, for me, I was like, well, this is going to be a challenge. What can I do in this amount of time to make sure that I'm ready? Because, in the NHL, they don't have excuses. If you're not ready, you're not there, and you're not getting paid millions of dollars. Like, you're an expendable, as much as some players are valuable, at the end of the day, you're all just a number.
Mm-hmm.
You really are. You're a statistic. You're an asset while you're there, but you're expendable because, how many of you guys want to play in the NHL? I know I did. I know Dylan did. I know every kid that I've worked with since starting this If I asked him right now, if you could play in the NHL one day, would you do it? 100% of them would have said yes. 100% of them would have said yes. So I'll get back to the story. I know I kind of went off track there.
Yeah, we got 9 minutes, so.
Okay, I'll speed this one up here. So we get to the rink. Long story short, it's 10 to 15 minutes, we'll call it, before we're supposed to go on the ice for our warm-up. 10 to 15 minutes. So, okay, we're getting our stuff unpacked. Our equipment manager's setting up the room. We get off the bus. Okay, I've got this long. We're on the ice in this long. Okay, I can get ready. If I go fast, I can get ready in this many minutes. Okay, I've got 4 minutes to warm up. What Dylan said, still applies. I want to get huffing and puffing. I want to get sweaty. I want to hit every joint in the body, and I want to mimic what I'm doing on the ice. Okay, perfect. I just warmed up doing my regular warm-up without stopping for 4 minutes straight. Minor change. I was huffing and puffing. I was sweating. I hit every joint in my body. I mimicked my on-ice movements. Okay, done. Go get ready. Go play. Nothing changed. Nothing changed at all. My principles were still the same. So I know that went a little bit off course, but in talking warm-up, guys, just accomplish what you know you have to accomplish now. Can you answer all 4 of those questions? Yes, I did that. Yes, I'm ready. I guarantee you guys that small change will make a big, big, big difference in your guys' performance from game to game.
100%. And, I think something to write down here, guys, to build consistency in your game. Consistency in your game comes from consistency in your habits. So, 4-minute warm-up is never ideal, but sometimes you're going to have variables thrown at you, and that's where you rely on your habits. You rely on your routines, because at the end of the day, that's what you need to fall back on. It's whatever you have consistency in. If you want consistency in your game, your habits, you need to have consistency in your daily life. Whether it's your warm-up routine, your pre-game routine, your fitness and health routine, your eating, your daily habits, all that good stuff. So consistency comes from consistency in our habits. Lastly, I'll get to this question. As a goalie, how much of my warm-up should be hand-eye? I would say somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. But it is important to listen to your eyes, because the second you kind of start sensing your tracking slowing down a little bit and your eyes are getting tired, that's when you should stop. Your eyes isn't something that you should, it's not like your body where you want to over stress it, because, if you start getting tired and you try and just push through it, it's just going to drain you that much more, and you're not going to be sharp when you get on the ice. So I would say 5 to 10 minutes just to give you like a general range. But this is something you should be doing now, like practicing trial and error and just kind of seeing, I'm getting tired around like the 7-minute mark, 5-minute mark, whatever it is. Just so that way you have an idea when, what your time frame should be, so you can kind of schedule, your ball routine, right? So you can get in however many drills you feel necessary within that amount of time. I know I do probably right around like 5 to 7 minutes, maybe like 5 to 7 drills. And if that's something you guys would be interested in, I'll definitely make a YouTube video of some hand-eye drills for you guys. So cool. Does anyone have any other questions? Feel free to drop them about anything. We have 5 minutes here, so we can just wrap and fire some questions. I know one question that I had sent in was, I guess we already touched on it, just like most important thing doing a warm-up. And I would say it just needs to be sports specific to what you're doing and what your demands are. And consistency is key. So finding a routine that, something my goalie coach said to me this year is make it easy to feel good. So your routine needs to be something that it makes it easy for you to feel good every single game, right? Like, a routine is not a ritual. It's not the same. It's a routine. A ritual is something that's up here. A routine, that's consistency. That's a habit. That is confidence. So, I guess Just make sure that you have you build a consistent routine that makes it easy for you to feel good on a night in, night out basis. And something that you want to do, if it's something that's too long and crazy, you're going to get drained out over the course of a 50, 60 game season. And it's going to be tough to get yourself to go to the rink and remember, the 100 things that you do before your game, right? So like create a simple routine that, covers the things we talked about that are important for a warm up. It's specific to you, something you enjoy doing, and that's going to give you the confidence to start your game on time, right? We want to start our game on time. We can't start a game late, especially if we're a goalie, because then we'll be out of the game before we know it. So how important is a post-game routine? Palms, you got 3 minutes. You want to hit it?
Yeah, I'll hit it. That's a great question that we actually didn't touch on. That's obviously opposite of our warm-up, but same principles, right? Take everything that we just talked about, and you're basically trying to de-escalate that state. And why we want to do that, and we'll call it your cool down, call it your post-game flush. When your body is performing at, very close to your max intensity for a long period of time, say over 2.5, 3 hours, the length of a game, and you're constantly, challenging every single fiber of your energy system in your body, that, that's where, even with proper preparation and warm up, that's where you can get into injuries, because the second that you go from 100% of your intensity max effort to nothing, that's a time where you don't want to necessarily just go down and sit and do a static stretch immediately. They call it a post-game flush. You want to flush out the lactic acid. You don't want your muscles and joints to instantly snap back and tighten up, because if you're playing a back-to-back or you're playing a 3-3, your body will crumble by the middle of game 2. And trust me, I've been there, and I can talk for days about that. Post-game flushing, it could be rolling out for 10 minutes. It could be getting on the bike at a super low intensity for 5 to 10 minutes. It could be just even going for a walk, maybe doing a stretch after you go for a walk, or I've seen guys do stairs after games.
1 minute palms.
Yeah, just at a lower intensity. So I'll leave it at that. But to answer it blatantly, it's extremely important. I would say it's as important, as your warm up, if not more so, and definitely more important when you guys are playing back to back or every second day, or you're playing a 3-3.
For sure. And well, honestly, I think that was a great question, and we will do another Zoom show on that topic. So we'll dive a little deeper into it. But yeah, your static stretching, your foam rolling, that kind of thing. But we have less than a minute here, so I don't want to get cut off. Thanks, guys, for joining us. And please DM me, DM Palms. Let us know what you guys thought of the show. Love your feedback. Send in your questions for future shows. This was a lot of fun, so we're definitely going to keep doing this.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you guys soon.
See you guys.